If you are raising a teenager, you know how challenging it can be. How difficult for parents to distinguish between good freedom and too much freedom, and how teenagers understand freedom anyway. Today, we have an interview with Dr. Carl Pickhardt, and he's going to tell us about how to listen, to have a conversation, to help them to find their own freedom to our teenagers. Stay with us because it is really exciting. Dr. Carl is one of the best authors when you want to come to communication with teenagers. He has a blog in Psychology Today that has been read more than 11 million times in the topic. And of course, I started reading his articles for this interview and I kept reading one and another and another. I am leaving you the page here because I think you are going to love it, to visit his website and see back editions of his articles and books. He is a psychologist in private practice in Austin, Texas. He is a graduate from Harvard University from the bachelor and the master program, and he has the Ph.D. from the University of Texas. And he has been writing several books, including 3 novels. You will enjoy his website. Go and visit. But for now, enjoy this interview. And by the way, it's a little bit of sound probably on his end. We have a lot of technical problems and we managed to do it in this era of everybody using the internet for school. Yeah, we managed to do it. So be patient with us in the sound and let us know if you were able to go through. It is really worth it. So here we have Dr. Carl with you. As I told you, we are here with Dr. Carl, and I am looking forward for this topic because we are going to talk about these teenagers that put upside down our life when they become of age of teens. So how are you doing, Carl?
I'm doing good. Actually, I look at the West Coast and fires. I think we're lucky to be spared all that at the moment.
Yeah, we have been one thing after another, but I have no complaints because the last 2 days it has been a little bit of earthquakes. So yeah, I am just like grateful for what we have. I am in my house.
Right.
Yeah. So let's start by defining freedom in the teen's mind and how it's different from the parents' point of view, Carl.
Well, freedom is a matter. The issue of freedom is choice. And what happens is, as the child departs childhood around the ages of 9 to 13, they become dissatisfied with being treated and defined as a little child anymore. And they want more freedom for room to grow. And they want it in 2 different ways. They want to be able to detach for more independence, and they want to be able to differentiate for more individuality. And those are actually the twin goals, I think, of adolescence, so that 8 to 10 years later, when the kid enters young adulthood, they can say that they have a functional independence and a fitting identity. But those things have to be discovered. And that's what the young person is doing. They're groping. They're not charting. They're groping their way to figure out, what kind of room to grow do they need and what kind of person are they. And parents are trying to, on the one hand, they accept the kids' need to push for freedom, but at the same time, they're trying to limit that freedom when the interest is safety and responsibility. And that conflict of interest unfolds over the course of adolescence.
How we can how do we know when we give them more freedom or less freedom? Or it's just so confusing for parents also. Yeah, not only for the teenager.
Well, it's a neat question because that is in fact the dilemma. Because when we give our teenager freedom, we are putting them at risk of the choice-consequence connection. And at that point, it can be that we give freedom and the kid takes it and they make a choice and they get themselves hurt or they get themselves in trouble. Now what happens is, two things have to happen. One is we have to decide whether we think the young person can manage that additional freedom. And number two, has the young person learned something from the consequence in the form of knowledge and responsibility that will help them make safer choices as they move forward? So you're always trying to help them learn from experience on the one hand, but then, if we feel, we let them go, they wanted to hang out, they're 12 years old, and we said, yes, you can go hang out with your friends at the mall. And the only reason the parent did that was that they got tired of being nagged about it. They said, okay. And now what happens is the kid gets there with their friends and they get in some kind of difficulty there. And the reality was that the kid really didn't have sufficient power of responsibility to take care of themselves. So maybe we pull back a little bit, but we also say, well, what did you learn from this experience? Because that's the power of the choice-consequence connection is education. We're trying to help the kid learn from experience as they grow.
Oh, I have a niece, is 15-year-old, and oh my God, she's testing in every possible way the family, in the good way, because she's extremely smart. But she got lost in the city last week in Guadalajara.
Oh my God!
In Mexico. So she thought she got totally lost. So we were discussing those are the options when you get lost. Yeah, you can call the family, you can call the driver that we know. You can ask people. Don't ask a man that is alone. You're right. It's an opportunity to learn. Yeah. It's an opportunity for the teen to learn.
What a scary experience, but what a lot of lessons one can learn about taking care of yourself when you're detached, from family and you're outside of the family circle, functioning in an area you've never been before. How do you take care of yourself? And
yes.
You gave her some good advice. So, well, you got a phone. You can call, for example, get support. And sometimes what you don't want is you don't want the situation, say in the case of your niece, where she feels like it's not okay to call because if I call, I will get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
You are in any kind of danger or uncertainty. It'll never be any trouble if you call for assistance.
And technology. Now I love technologies like, do you know how to send the PIN of your exact address? Yeah. Yes, I know that. Okay. So text the PIN and say, this is where I am. And then we can figure out what bus you need to take or whatever. We agreed that she was going to open the location services so we can see every time where she is. I hope it stays open. Yeah.
Well, that you are, you're not her parent.
Yeah, no.
Which gives you additional influence.
Yes.
Because you're not tangled, in those dynamics. So she can hear from you what she might have a hard time hearing from her parents. Yes. And you're a safe relationship and you're a trusted relationship, and she knows you care for her welfare.
Thank you for pointing that, Carl, because parents need a lot of help. Yeah.
Right.
And so it's okay to have trustworthy adults around. Yeah.
Yeah, I think really when your kid enters adolescence, you want to flood their world of relationships with other adults that can be trusted. You want multiple adults on the scene because there will be times when this young person, for whatever reason, feels jammed with parents or feels confident with parents, but they want to talk to somebody and they can say, well, yeah, it's hard for my parents, but I've got this aunt and she lives in the U.S. and I can call her. That's huge, huge.
Yeah, yeah, yes. What is it too much freedom, Carl?
Pardon?
What is it too much freedom?
Well, too much freedom is at the point at which they show evidence that when you give them the freedom to make that choice, the consequences are harmful to them. And if they're making harmful choices, then, we have to pull back on the freedom. Because we're giving them more than they know how to handle.
Yeah.
And so we say, well, what did you learn from this experience? And then you try to pull back a little bit. And you can say, well, knowing what we know now, if this kind of freedom opened up for you again, how would you take care of yourself differently than the last time? It's like we're always teachers. We're partly teachers as parents. And that's why, parents need not to take the changes and the challenges personally.
Yes.
And understand that the kid's just groping. The growth urge is to say, I want to try this, I want to try that, because it feels like what I want to do.
Yeah.
It's riding not on judgment so much as emotion. Sometimes the emotion is fine, but sometimes it is not.
Yesterday, I spent a couple hours. Actually, I wanted to spend like half an hour in researching about your books and articles, but I actually took like more than 2 hours because you have some articles about the stages of being teenager.
Right.
And well, you have so many articles. So I actually shared with my Facebook yesterday your page, and we will put in these notes, in the notes of the episode, the page. Because it's important, you have a talent to pinpoint what parents need to learn. Yeah. And you are doing it by this example right now. You are doing it in such a kind way. Because parents tend to have arguments with their children, tend to have heated conversations. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of the hardest job is how do you keep communication open?
Yeah.
You can process what's going on. Sometimes parents think, well, I have to be in control. And, they don't look, you're never going to be in control. Control is not something you have because you don't control their choices. What you do control is your own choices. And you do control how you help them understand the choices they are making.
Yeah.
But sometimes parents get jammed, and they just try to, clamp down in all kinds of ways. They get so preoccupied with control that all of a sudden the relationship really gets jammed. And it's better, I think, to be able to say, when you and I have differences about the kind of freedom you want, the first thing we have to be able, the first freedom that you and I have to have is the freedom to talk. We have got to be able, both of us, to feel free. If I am doing or saying something that is causing you not to feel free to talk with me, let's talk about that. Because I want to be the person you can truly talk to, and the reverse is true. If you're doing something that make it hard for me, then let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Communication is the lifeline.
Yeah. Did you come up with that freedom contract, or is something that it was already in the field of psychology?
No, I just came out with that from just a lot of times parents will ask the question, how do I know when to give my child more freedom or my adolescent more freedom? So I just counsel them about what it seems to me are 3 or 6 major dimensions that you want to check the kid out on. One is, believability. Is the kid giving me truthful, reliable information? Because I need that. Predictability. Are they keeping their promises and agreements? Responsibility. Are they able to take care of business at home, at school, out in the world? mutuality. Are they able to live on two-way terms with me? Not just for them, but for me. We can both give and take. And availability. When I want to talk with them, they have to be willing to talk with me. And finally, civility, which has to do with being able to communicate about hard topics, with courtesy and respect, so we can both hear what each other is saying. Now, if the kid's giving me all of that, and I say yes to that, then I'm more willing to risk giving that kid more freedom, because they're living up to contract, those 6 articles.
Yeah.
If they're lying, breaking promises, not acting responsibly, living one way, not available, and will not be civil in talking with me, then I'm going to be less likely to give them the freedom they want. So you can literally say to the kid, look, you want freedom, I want you to have freedom, but I need this from you, for me to risk, and that's the word, risk, giving you more freedom.
It is a win-win situation. Yeah, it's like, I really want you to grow. I really want you to be a full human being. Yeah.
I mean, and it's not like we're on opposing sides. We're a team. We're working together to help you find your way as you detach and you differentiate. You try more independence. You try more individuality. And our job is to kind of make room for you within the family, so these changes can unfold in a safe and responsible way.
Yeah, and I didn't have that question for you before, but I am thinking about this COVID during this pandemic crisis. Teenagers are desperate. They are even getting really sad to be at home. Yeah. So it's getting more challenging.
Well, it is more challenging because what happens is that what the pandemic has done is it has restricted freedom. Well, that's hard for parents, but it's really hard for an adolescent.
Yeah.
So now what happens is you either get kids, sneaking out to get what has been forbidden, or you get huge amounts of frustration in the kid wanting more room to grow, and that room to grow has been confined.
Yeah.
And so, that's going to be, talked about. That is a reality. It is very hard to put, to limit your world at a time in your life when you want to expand your world. And that is very frustrating. So, I guess what to think about is, suppose that this pandemic happened before there was an online world. What in heaven's name would that? And so you had the kid. Now you have the kid at home. It's before there was any computer and online life. The kid is trapped at home, and they have no way to communicate with friends. The online world allows, at least, just like you and I are doing now.
Yeah.
We're still confined, but we can communicate with each other.
Mm-hmm.
You want to maximize that for the young person as well. And cut them some slack, because realize they're probably going to need more online time at home than they had before.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. The more online, more texting, more Zoom, more,
Yeah, it's not because they're not doing this because they don't love us. It's not about that. It's that they need freedom, and they're going to have to, since they can't get offline freedom, they're going to need to approximate it with online freedom.
Carl, we are talking in a family where all of these situations will normally be a conflict in a family with resources, with space, with whatever. But let me tell you, Carl, the families that I work with, they live 10 people in a two-bedroom apartment. The teenager doesn't have any private space in normal life. Yeah, sometimes it's the language barrier because the teenager will speak English and the parents don't.
Right.
And what we are having right now is in the families, the internet is not enough. Yeah, if all of them want to be connected to school time, they cannot. So do you have any word of hope for these parents or anything that may help them?
Well, only that number one is they recognize what you have described, that this is a really hard time to be all confined together. So then I think, we've got to talk about confinement. How can we live together? And are there some ways of living together? That, people can get the privacy they need on the one hand, but also we can find ways to be together, that feel good to us during a very, very hard time.
Yeah.
They're not misperceiving. People feel like they are in lockdown with their family and they can't get out. And that's frustrating and that's scary and then sometimes it's angering because freedom is being denied. And it's not just that the teenager is suffering from want of freedom. The adults are too. But everybody's got that frustration. That's why parents can at least talk about, they can say, well, I don't know exactly how it's like for you, but let me tell you what it's like for me. Not being able to have the freedom to go out in the world the way I am used to and the way I need, and how I'm trying to take care of myself.
Yeah.
Psychologically, it's a very tough time in the family, and the other thing is that what it often does, it's not always the kind of intimacy you would like. It's not the kind of it may not be the kind of intimacy you want, but people know each other. They see each other more fully than they did before. So there's a kind of a knowing that this is not like a pre-pandemic thing where the kid is, just away from family and out in the world and not thinking of family. And when they come home, they just kind of ignore family. Maybe they go off privately to be with themselves. Now what happens is, they're all locked in together. And so, what that means is it's very, very hard, to manage that increase in knowing. And people feel like they don't have as much privacy. They're known in ways they do not, necessarily like. They get, and I think that's why it really helps to have maybe not call it intimacy, but what are some ways that we can take care of ourselves as a family when we're all crowded together? We can't get away from each other. Are there some things we can do? Are there some things we can talk about that can somehow make it easier? And if somebody in the family just needs time with themselves, by themselves, without anybody else, around them or interfering with them, what are some ways they can communicate that? And what are some ways we can help them get that?
Yes.
Because people need alone time.
Yeah.
At a time when they're crowded together like this.
Yeah. You say it beautifully. It's challenging and we can work around. And also we have stories where families are doing something together, are doing art together, painting the wall, something that they didn't have the time to do before because they were living apart, in the same household.
Yeah, well, my wife and I were talking about this the other day. The industry that has really profited from the pandemic is the home improvement industry.
It's true.
Now what happens is people are doing exactly what you described. All these projects that have been put aside, I know what we can do. And we've actually got some labor power in the family because now we have these kids home. Let's put them to work. Let's get them to help, right?
My grandma used to say, "Oh, you are bored, you are depressed, clean the kitchen and you will be fine." Now it's working.
Right. Grandmother was a wise man.
Yeah. Right. Well, is there something else you want to say before we close the topic?
Well, I think going back, maybe we touched on earlier, is that adolescence it's really important for parents to understand adolescence is not something that this young person is doing to their parents. They are not, they're simply groping their way, trying to get independence and express individuality. And it's not anything against the parents, it's for themselves. And if parents can just get that kind of distance, they won't take it personally. And if they don't take it personally, they're less likely to feel offended and overreact. And I think that's part of the challenge of parenting in adolescence is managing the relationship in a way where you can respond but not overreact.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely true. Well, thank you, Carl, for taking this time in your busy time. And it really is going to help our families to see differently how to do freedom with their teenagers.
Well, it's good talking to you.
Thank you. And hopefully you come one day, one more time to our home in Emotions in Harmony and talk to whatever you want. Yeah. Okay. Bye for now, Carl. Isn't that amazing? I told you, this interview is all about kindness. I enjoy my conversation with Dr. Carl, and thank you for being here still with us. Well, if you are still here, please don't forget to order your chilaquiles from La Luna Mexican restaurant if you ever visit San Jose. And tell me, in any other parts of the world, what is good to go and visit to eat. Also, tell us what is good for you in terms of content. Just send me an email, go to our social media, and tell me what is it, what are your questions, how we can help you to navigate better this your emotional health. We are here, and this is a co-creation, so don't leave me alone. This is a co-creation. You tell me, and we keep finding the best experts for you. By the way, let me tell you that now I'm no longer the only one producing the content. We have 4 or 5 volunteers. You will get to know them slowly, that they are putting together this content. And today's content and guest is thank you to Teresa Pognivar. Thank you, Teresa. And of course, you will have more. You will get to know them, I tell you. This is amazing. New volunteers coming. And if you want to volunteer for us and you say, Carmen, I don't know what to do, but I want to help you, come. And if you don't have time to volunteer, just go to PayPal and donate so we can continue with these productions. Okay, we can continue with these co-creations. Bye for now.